Maxx Crosby just sent a message to Raider Nation, and this is something every Raiders fan needs to hear. After the Raiders faced the Arizona Cardinals in their preseason opener, all eyes were on Maxx Crosby, not just because he's one of the biggest stars on this Raiders defense, but because this is the beginning of a completely new chapter in Las Vegas. New coaching staff, new defensive system, new expectations. And after everything we've seen from Crosby during training camp, there was one question everyone wanted answered. How does Maxx Crosby feel about this Raiders team? In this hypothetical post-game reaction, Crosby made one thing very clear. This team isn't where it wants to be yet, but the mentality is changing, and that could be the most important thing we learned from this game. Crosby would explain that preseason football isn't really about chasing stats or worrying about the final score. It's about building habits, building chemistry, and making sure everyone understands what this defense is supposed to look like when the regular season finally arrives. He would say, "We're just trying to get better. Nobody in this locker room is satisfied. We know there's a lot of work left to do." Again, that quote is fictional and created for this video, but the message fits perfectly with what the Raiders are trying to accomplish right now, because this isn't the same Raiders team we watched last season. There are new faces, there's a new coaching staff, and there's a completely different atmosphere surrounding the organization, and Maxx Crosby is right in the middle of all of it. He's not just another defensive player, he's one of the leaders of this team, and when Crosby talks about the defense, his teammates are listening. That's why his reaction after this game matters. But there's something else that could be even more important, and that's Crosby's health. The Raiders need their star pass rusher ready when the games actually count. Crosby is known for playing with an unbelievable motor. He wants every snap, every rep, every opportunity to make a play. That's part of what makes him one of the most dangerous defensive players in the NFL. But the Raiders also have to think about the bigger picture. They don't need Maxx Crosby to prove anything in the preseason. They need him healthy when September arrives, and that's why his workload is going to be something worth watching very closely. Remember, the Raiders coaching staff has already been emphasizing discipline and smart football during training camp, and that's especially important for Crosby because of the way he plays. He brings an insane level of intensity to every practice. Sometimes you have to remind a player like that, save some of that energy for Sunday, and that's exactly why this preseason is important. It's not about being perfect, it's about getting comfortable with the system, getting comfortable with your teammates, and figuring out what works before the real games begin. Now here's where things get interesting. The Raiders have a chance to build something special on defense, and Crosby could be the centerpiece. Think about it. If the defensive line starts creating consistent pressure, if the linebackers communicate, if the secondary stays disciplined, then this defense could become a serious problem for opposing offenses, and Crosby doesn't even have to record a sack on every drive for that to happen. His presence alone changes how an offense prepares. Quarterbacks know where he is. Offensive linemen have to account for him. Running backs may have to stay in protection, and that can create opportunities for everybody else. That's the kind of impact you don't always see in the box score, and that's why Crosby's leadership could be just as important as his production. In this hypothetical post-game interview, Crosby would also make it clear that the team can't get comfortable. He would tell his teammates that one preseason game doesn't mean anything once the regular season begins. There are still battles to be won, there are still mistakes to clean up, and there are still players fighting for their jobs. That's the reality of August football, and that's why Raider Nation shouldn't look at this game as the final answer. Look at it as the first chapter. Because the real test is coming. When September arrives, there won't be any preseason excuses. Every possession matters, every mistake matters, every defensive stop matters, and that's when we're going to find out what this new Raiders identity really looks like. But if there's one thing Raiders fans can be excited about, it's the mentality. Maxx Crosby has always played with an aggressive mindset. He doesn't take plays off, he doesn't take competition lightly. And he clearly wants this team to develop that same attitude. And there are plenty of weapons for the Raiders to evaluate. Brock Bowers remains one of the most exciting young players on the roster. His ability to create mismatches makes him an important part of the offense, and it will be interesting to see how Kubiak uses him in this new system. Then there's Ashton Jeanty in the backfield. Jeanty is another young player who could play a major role for this Raiders offense, and preseason gives him an opportunity to get comfortable with the new system before the games start counting. And as the Raiders move forward from this game, the biggest thing is going to be consistency. The players have to keep learning the system, keep communicating, and keep building that chemistry every single day. For Maxx Crosby, that means continuing to lead by example. He has already established himself as one of the leaders of this team, but leadership isn't just about making big plays on Sunday, it's also about setting the standard during practice, holding your teammates accountable, and making sure everyone understands what the team is trying to accomplish. That's especially important for a Raiders defense that is still developing its identity. There are going to be mistakes, there are going to be missed opportunities, and there are going to be moments when things don't go according to plan. The important part is how the team responds. That's where veteran leadership becomes so valuable. Crosby knows that a long NFL season isn't won in one game, it's built week after week, and that's exactly what the Raiders have to focus on now. The preseason gives them a chance to identify the problems before the games become meaningful. Every missed assignment can become a lesson, every communication issue can become something to fix, and every good defensive series can give the team confidence moving forward. For Crosby, the goal isn't simply to look good in August. The goal is to be ready when the regular season begins, and that's why the next few weeks could be extremely important. The Raiders have time to improve, they have time to develop their younger players, and they have time to figure out which combinations work best on defense. If they can put all of those pieces together, the potential is definitely there. But nobody inside that locker room can afford to get comfortable. The NFL moves too fast for that. One week you're feeling great about your team, and the next week you're facing a completely different challenge. That's why the mentality has to remain the same. Work, improve, stay healthy, and keep pushing forward. And when you have a player like Maxx Crosby leading the way, that mentality can spread throughout the entire defense. That's what Raider Nation should be watching as the season gets closer. Not just the sacks, not just the tackles, not just the highlight plays. Watch how this defense communicates, watch how they respond after giving up a big play, watch how the younger players develop, and watch how Crosby continues to lead this group. Because those details could tell us much more about the Raiders than any preseason stat ever could. The foundation is being built right now. The real test will come when the regular season starts. Until then, the Raiders have one job: keep getting better. And if they can do that, this team could enter the regular season with a completely different level of confidence. For Maxx Crosby, it's about leading this defense and making sure the standard never drops. For the Raiders, it's about turning that mentality into results. And for Raider Nation, it's about staying patient while this team puts the pieces together. There's still a lot of football ahead. There are still questions that need answers, and there are still plenty of opportunities for this team to prove what it can become. But one thing is certain: the work doesn't stop here. The Raiders will keep preparing, Crosby will keep leading, and Raider Nation will be watching every step of the way. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next Raiders update. Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell us what you think this defense needs to improve before the regular season begins. Thank you for watching, and as always, go Raiders!